Okay, well, let's move on. So if you're already struggling to keep your New Year's resolution, well, you're not exactly alone, but Dr. Amantha Imber may have the solution. The new book from the organisational psychologist specialising in behavioural change may help you understand how to sustain new habits, and she joins us now in the studio. Thanks very much for coming in.
It's good to be here.
This is fascinating, I think, because when we come to New Year's resolutions, it's not just I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. It's I'm going to change this, I'm going to start exercising, eat better, sleep more, blah, blah, blah. And it's just too much. How do we break it down?
Well, in the book, I look at sleep, movement and nutrition as three fundamental pillars of health. But I think that really the crux of it and why a lot of people really struggle is that information alone is not enough to change behaviour, which is why typically just reading a blog or listening to a podcast is not going to actually change your behaviour. So what we do know, there are four big barriers that stand in the way to making a change. There's motivational barriers, like feeling like you have to do something instead of want to. There's relational barriers. So, you know, if the social norms in our life, like the people in our household, are eating really unhealthily, it's hard for us to change our behaviour. Then there's environmental, so the physical environment that we're in. And finally, cognitive. If we're feeling tired, it's hard to change.
Yep, I think we could all relate to that one on this show.
Well, speaking of feeling tired, the sleep tips, always of great interest to anybody who works on a breakfast TV show. Take us through some of the tips that you suggest people take, both if they struggle to fall asleep and if they wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, which is often yours truly here.
Yep.
I see. Yeah, it's a really common problem.
I'm asking from a big degree of self-interest here. Take it away.
Well, I find that one of the biggest problems is that people just wake up feeling groggy and tired. That is a really common thing that a lot of people experience. And one of the best things that we can do to overcome that morning grogginess is get out into natural light as quickly as possible and just expose ourselves to daylight for about 10 to 15 minutes. What that does is that resets our body clock. And what scientists have found is that just through doing that for 1 week, we're going to be significantly less fatigued during the day and we're going to have a much more restful sleep at night.
OK, I'll take that on board.
Amantha, one of the things I found really interesting in your book was temptation bundling, because I think this is smart and I think this is something some of us think about doing but don't necessarily do. Can you explain what that is and why it can work to change habits?
So temptation bundling is great if you've got a motivational barrier in the way to change. Maybe your doctor has said, you know, you need to exercise more, move more or something like that. You know that you have to, but you're kind of struggling to get motivated. So temptation bundling involves, quite simply, pairing something that is unpleasurable, like maybe getting on the exercise bike or going for, you know, a half-hour walk every day, with something that is pleasurable. So for me, I hate the exercise bike, but I know it's good for me. And so what I do, I have a guilty pleasure of watching The Bachelor. It has to be the US Bachelor, though. And it used to be a guilty pleasure, but now I just let myself watch it whenever I'm on the exercise bike. And now it's just a pleasure, no guilt attached.
And speaking of movement, you break down a lot of myths in the book based on scientific evidence, including the one about, gee, you know, a lot of us have these smartwatches. We have to walk 10,000 steps every day for optimal exercise. That's not necessarily the case.
No. So interestingly, research has shown that 10,000 steps is not the magic number. And how that came about is simply through a Japanese marketing campaign, would you believe?
Interesting.
And we've all stuck to that. But when we've actually researched it and looking at scientists that have looked at how many daily steps is ideal, 7,500 is the magic number. Beyond there, the gains are pretty minimal when we're looking at mortality rates or premature death. So aim for 7,500 a day.
I feel so much better hearing that.
So what are your tips for how to make those habits stick?
Yep.
How long does it take for that to really kick in and rather than think about, I need to do this, it just becomes an automatic part of your routine?
So research has shown that it takes on average 66 days to change a habit. Sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, so a couple of months. But what the health habit does is it actually helps people diagnose the biggest barrier standing in the way, because there is no one-size-fits-all program or approach to changing behaviour.
And you can change one habit, you're right. Just choose one habit, stick to it, and you could see improvement in less than a week.
Absolutely. So when I was doing my research for the book, we had several hundred people go through and apply some of the strategies in the book, and after a week, people had a very significant impact in improving their energy, improving their sleep, and just their overall well-being.
So what's your biggest tip, just how to get started? Because I think that's one of the biggest barriers. Yeah,
look, I think pick an area: sleep, movement or nutrition. What's going to make the biggest difference in your life to feeling great? And then diagnose what is the biggest barrier standing in the way. Is it motivational? Is it relational? Is it environmental? Or is it cognitive? And the book suggests plenty of habit hacks, if you like, to overcome those barriers.
And I really like in the book how you've got degrees of difficulty as well. I really enjoy that, because some of them I'm like, let's just go to the easier one, easier one for the time being. Your book's really fascinating, and I think what I really like is that you say it's not a one-size-fits-all, because I think that's often what we do. Oh, that person's doing that must work, so I've got to follow that one. So, and you suggest almost look at yourself as a bit of an experiment. You've just got to try new things.
Yeah, treat yourself as a little guinea pig in a lab, and it's all an experiment.
Yeah, good stuff, Amantha. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Amantha Imber, thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.